Morning, Murray. How are you?
Morning, Gordon. Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Very nice to see you. For all those that don't know, this is Murray Morrison, who's the founder of Tassomai, which is a really interesting business that we've started to do some work with. And we love at School Notices and on our YouTube channel, SNTV, just to really share some I think, really interesting stories, sort of founder-led businesses that are really relevant to our audience and to schools that we work with. So it's great to have you on. Lovely to be able to chat to you. Maybe just explain the curiously named Tassomai. Maybe just explain, what exactly is Tassomai?
Well, Tassomai is a learning and revision app. And put simply, it's the most effective way for students to prepare for exams. What it does is it just helps students learn and revise in their core subjects. If you want to know what the name Tassomai means, where it comes from, it's actually from Greek, and it means I organize myself, I put my tasks in order. It's in a way your kind of revision and learning buddy as a student. Okay. I know from my experience, but lots of students at that age aren't the best at organizing their time. So Tassomai really is doing all that work to get them to practice the best possible. And Tassomai is something that's bought by parents, though frequently we're actually bought by whole schools because they give the teachers lots of useful data as well to support their teaching. Yeah. It works by multiple choice quizzing, video tutorials, and we give curated links to students to go and find out more about the areas where they're struggling. And crucially, it gets results.
Well, that's great. And actually, I was looking on the website earlier. It's a really interesting way of teaching or of arranging or sorting learning for students, because you're kind of picking at people's individual needs or their requirements or what actually, I guess, holes in their ability. You're sort of finding that out along the way, which is quite an interesting way to do it.
Exactly. And that's so crucial for any kind of teaching model or learning model, is to find out where the gaps are and then find out the best path to fill in those gaps. Yeah. All the while, you've got to keep people feeling confident, feeling like they can continue to progress and grow. And that's what, with technology that we've built in Tassomai, is really the heart and soul of it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about why did you set Tassomai up? What's your background? How come you came to where you are today?
Well, I was some time ago now working as a tutor, mostly in London, but actually all around the world, and also a teacher in a school in West London. And I basically developed the method as a way of helping my students learn and revise more effectively. Tutoring was expensive, and at the time I was in very high demand. So I really felt that this approach would help me to work with more students, help me work with more kids and more affordably, and help them be less dependent on me if I could give them a method of practicing day to day that would really work for them. And that was key. But also because I was dealing with lots of students, traveling around a lot, Tassomai helped me to see exactly where students' knowledge gaps were so that I could help make my teaching as effective as possible. What I discovered, slightly accidentally, was once the students were using Tassomai a lot, they didn't really need me because the program was filling in the gaps for them, or they were going, right, here's where I need more work, and they could go and fill it in themselves, which was really the magic formula. So that's the story behind it. And now we've been going for about 10 years. We're in hundreds of schools, and we have about 2.5 million questions answered on the platform every day.
Is that right? Really? Yeah. Wow, that's busy. That's busy. And what makes you? I mean, there are, we're hurtling towards revision period at the moment, and parents are scratching their heads, wondering what to do. What's different about Tassomai? What makes it so special to other revision apps that might be out there?
Well, it's really fundamentally, it's based on the science of learning. My background, aside from the teaching and tutoring side of things, was I got into that really because I was trying to support my other careers in professional music and professional sport. And there's so much that you see when you work with musicians and work with elite athletes, that you see how practice is really applied to those skills. The importance of practice and the importance of feedback and structure. And so that was kind of my key insight for building Tassomai in the first place, to build those ideas from elite performance into revision, which is a connection that weirdly wasn't made by people much at the time. But funnily enough, quite soon after getting Tassomai going and running and testing it with my first few dozen students, there was a piece of research published by somebody called Dunlowski. It was a meta study about the effective techniques of revision and also what not to do. And it was a checklist. And I looked at this article, I was like, wow, amazing. That's exactly what Tassomai does. It's all these techniques that are based really in the science of learning. I got it from seeing how musicians, how athletes really apply their elite practice to learning and thinking, I can get my students to do that with this game, with this app. So what makes Tassomai different? It's the most fundamentally scientific approach to learning and revision. And we have bags and bags of evidence to say it really makes a difference. And we see students gaining multiple grades as they go from their mocks to their exams through the use of this program.
Brilliant. I love your reference to, we're having a little bit of problem with the airwaves. Your video is freezing, but we're still getting your voice, which is all important. So we'll crack on. But I like the reference also to the game element, because that, I'm guessing, for a young audience, if they can think they're gaming, well, in fact, they're learning. That's probably a bonus, right?
Exactly. And I'm not going to pretend it's Call of Duty. It's still learning and revision day. And it's really important that you get students to engage. There are lots of things out there that are apps that are just games, and there's very little learning in there. Well, that's sort of point. That's lots of content to absorb, but very little means of engagement. And so what we built into Tassomai was something that was, you really got to participate, but it's quite enjoyable, and you can feel yourself progressing and improving as you go.
Brilliant. And what would you say, tutors versus Tassomai? Lots of parents, I guess, reach out for the phone directory and look for tutors. What would you say, tutors versus Tassomai? How does that work?
Well, I could give a number of answers here. I am slightly poacher turned gamekeeper. I've worked in tutoring for many years, and I can see the benefits, but I'm also extremely skeptical that it gives real value for money. And I'm sure lots of your audience know only too painfully how much tutoring can cost, and probably ask themselves the question, was that really worth it? Yeah. The issue for me is that often tutoring itself alone can be something of a crutch, and people can become dependent. And I'm personally a big believer in the ideas around growth mindset. If a kid does the work by themselves, maybe with the support of an app like Tassomai, then what they learn and the way they learn it is much more effective, much more sustainable, and much more long lasting than if they have a tutor come around to sort of spoon feed them with information. Now, of course, that's an unfair view of perhaps all tuition, but I think there's really a magic formula of using a program like Tassomai to do daily practice and learning and embedding, and then some tutoring to come and really troubleshoot in the gaps. And the beauty of the system we've built is that the student becomes much more aware of where they need help, so they can actually ask for that help from the tutor and direct the sessions. And we provide loads of data to parents and kids and tutors to show, right, here are where your gaps are, and here are the fundamental questions you're getting wrong, so that it can scaffold a really good tuition session. In fact, I do 5 or 6 free tuition sessions most evenings for subscribers in the app. So, I do lots of that, and I can look at the data in an instant, go, right, here's where you need help, let's dig into that. So there is a way of balancing the two for maximum effect. That
data, that sort of collection of that really useful data is really interesting, actually. And I bet, that's a bit of a USP, I suspect. What also is a USP, I think, is that, you must be really pleased with your interaction with schools, particularly who like your software, because I know from experience, tutors and schools slightly do a bit of this on, there's our curriculum, who's in charge, we're supposed to be doing all this teaching, but actually educational software, to have had such successful uptake from schools must be really rewarding for you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're such a friend to the schools that use us, because, they can purchase a license for the software relatively inexpensively. And it means that it's creating a bespoke, personalized homework for every student every day, where they can do that practice that's germane to their specific needs, right? So for a start, they don't have to set the homework and mark the homework, but then it gives them bags of data that say, right, this class, you haven't covered this topic very well because none of them get it.
Yeah.
or this individual is flying and everything, but here's where she has a gap, and they can drill into that data and really make the most of their time to help their kids. So, teacher workload is a big issue in education, particularly in the state sector, but I think across the board. We really mitigate that effect and help teachers be more effective and do the job they actually signed up for.
Possibly the most useful element of your business is the data, because actually, as with most businesses, that's, people get a lot out of that.
Indeed, and we're a very evidence-driven company. We do tons of analysis and data to check, like, is the program, delivering on its promise? Are we making the learning as effective as it can be? So we talk a lot about, businesses talk about return on investment. We talk about the investment is the child doing the work, and the return is them learning. And are we delivering that return? Yeah. So the fact that schools have got involved as much as they have, and we have, as we say, several million questions a day coming through the pipes, means we have loads of data ourselves to hone that program and make it more effective. So having schools on board has been great for us in terms of developing the product as well, because we're just in touch with so many professionals about how to make it do what it needs to do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say I'm a parent with a child of any, I guess, whatever age, approaching common entrance or even GCSEs. I go to Tassomai.com, and what do I do? What's my experience like? What's my day like with Tassomai?
Very simple. I mean, if you're just setting it up, you come to our website. Worth taking a look as well. There's a link at the top at the moment for a publication we've done called the GCSE Survival Guide for parents of Year 11s, but it applies to, of course, parents of common entrance students in that run up to a revision. It's a free resource, but lots of helpful advice about how to support your child. But that's by the by. As you set up your account, it's pretty instantaneous. Once you sort of set up your account and your child's account, they can log in, download the app, or go to the website and start right away. And we do a free week's trial, so you really can sort of try before you buy. There's lots of subjects available, but really we concentrate on English, maths, and science, but there is French and Latin and things too. I'd suggest really, if you're new to it, just start out with a couple of subjects, and you can always add more into the bucket later once you've got a routine. But within minutes, your child can be up and running and starting those sort of initial diagnostic quizzes. And as it moves on, the quizzes should expand in terms of their complexity, find the level that's right for your child, and then and balance all the different topics. So key is we're keeping all those plates spinning and making sure everything's getting equal attention, or rather more attention where more attention is needed, but keeping everything in balance, I should say. And as a parent, you get weekly reports that come in, so you can monitor usage and you can log in and see exactly where their gaps are. So there's lots that goes on once you're up and running.
The thought of being able to show my children data as to where they're failing in their learning I need that in my arsenal.
But what's nice, I mean, people hear about data and they think it's lots of ones and zeros and like the Matrix or something.
Yeah.
The way we handle data is really, really user friendly. So if you can imagine a subject like maths breaking down into sort of 6 or 7 topic areas, well, we show maths as the trunk of a tree, with the topics being the branches off the tree and the subtopic being twigs off those branches. So what you see as your child starts using the app is a little sapling that starts to grow as they unlock new content. And some of those branches will look healthy and vibrant, and some of them will look distinctly autumnal and looking like they're withering. So it's a visualization that anyone can get on top of, look at and go, right, that doesn't look too healthy. You can click in there and see exactly what they're getting wrong. So crucially, parents, you don't have to be experts in the subject to help your child with an app like Tassomai. You can go, right, what's going on there? Let's click, let's have a look, let's see what you said, let's see what the right answer is, let's follow that link to that resource where we can read up on that subject. It's all there in the app, ready to go. And so it can turn inexpert parents into kind of expert coaches.
Well, I think that's quite interesting. I think that's quite, our lights have just gone out here. It's quite interesting. Anyway, there we're back on again. I think what's interesting is, as you say, bad parenting in terms of revision. I mean, I've been the worst at this. How to manage your children through holiday revision and stuff is just an absolute minefield. And I'm supposing this would help. I'm guessing this helps parents sort of avoid getting caught in that crossfire with their children.
Absolutely. And in fact, when I set up Tassomai, it was with my co-founder, Madeline Inking, who's a child and adolescent psychotherapist, and it really was built around supporting healthy conversations between parents and their children about how to make sure they're getting the most out of their time and achieving their potential. So avoiding getting caught in the crossfire is what we're actually all about. What we're trying to do is, okay, well, if we take a step back, I think the key thing for parents, in the run up to revision times and busy times, is to work with their child to sort of set up a clear routine, a clear plan, and say, okay, this is what we're trying to get to. This is our expectation, realistic expectation of where we're going to get to. And this is what we need to do to get there. And then agree on a kind of a process, a routine that you can go from A to B. Now, if you've done that together, then that can be the source of all conversation. Instead of saying, I don't think you've done enough work, and they say, I think I'm doing too much work, and you have that bashing of heads. Yeah. Instead, the question is like, well, your plan was to do this today. How did that go? And get them to open up about it and get them to admit, perhaps, if they're not doing enough, or get them to tell you where they're struggling. And it can be suddenly a collaborative exercise where you're both on the same side facing the same challenge. Now, where does something like Tassomai come in? Key to building a plan like that is that discovery of where are the gaps, and also having a friend there that can say, right, here's where we're going to give you a bit more quizzing here or point you in the right direction. So we really are a key, I think, in that whole conversation, and that's where we set out to be from the beginning.
Brilliant. I mean, I personally, I wish Tassomai had been around when I was smashing my children around the head with a book, and equally when I was failing my exams. Maybe it might have been quite useful then. But look, Murray, I'm going to wrap it up now. We've had a bit of buffering, a bit of freezing of videos and lights off, but I think we've done quite well. I think we've covered the basics. Really, really interesting product. And I wish you all the success with schools and parents. And they can find you. So it's Tassomai, it's TASSOMAI.com. Is that right?
That's right. If you can spell it, that's half the battle.
Yeah, brilliant. I was listening in class. Brilliant. Well, look, Murray, thanks so much for your time. Really, really great. And we will sign off now and see you soon.
Thanks so much, Gordon.